want to keep everybody for the group interview. Some people are not going to think that the job is for them. And so that's okay. The job isn't for everybody. So you should keep at least 87%. If that number is lower, then that means that you're just throwing away your money. All right. But also, the last thing I'll say about the pre is you should have as many interviews second man as possible. And so all of you know what second manning is, and it doesn't have to be anything super spectacular. In my Rising Star meeting, one of the tips, I'll do this probably every 3 weeks, is I'll teach people how to second man. And all it is I say, hey, you know what, I promote that Rising Star as part of management training. And I say, hey, part of your first training as far as being to assistant manager is learning how to second man. And second manning is really important because the applicants come in, they're very nervous, and just by talking to them makes them a little bit relaxed. And so then I also explain to them that there's always, really negative people in the world, and that you don't want negativity to spread because it will really quickly. And I kind of explain that philosophy. And so I get people signed up to second man interviews. So some of my representatives, second man, they come up to the front of the room and talk to the group as a whole. Some of my other representatives sit down with each person one-on-one and have individual conversations with all of them. But having somebody second manning definitely helps, obviously, with people. So, all right, so after the pre, what do you do next? Wow, I think we have some people who actually run interviews in here. That's cool. That's awesome. All right, so the group, the first part of the group, the first thing I would say with the group interview is you got to be pumped and you got to stay focused. Let me ask any of you in here, because I know I've done it. Have any of you ever ran a group interview before, and like halfway through you realized that you were thinking about something totally different other than the interview? Yeah, totally. Right? Just so you know, my first summer as a district manager, I only had like a 28% showed at training. Yeah, so that was pretty bad. And one of the biggest reasons why is because while I was interviewing people, I was thinking about all the other things I needed to do in the back of my head. So I was saying the words because I had it memorized, but I was like, okay, what do I got to do after this? I got PDI, and then I'm going to do a couple PCs, and then tomorrow I got to do this. And so I wasn't focused on the people, and that's one of the things I made sure to focus on the summer, and I had a dramatic increase in my show. So I stayed focused. I was, instead of just being a robot and saying the words, I still said pretty much the same words, but every single interview was a little bit different, and I had fun. And I was pumped. You should create a ritual for yourself before you go run a group interview. And so, something that I do is before I go into my group interview, I think about, the end of the summer. Eric was talking to me about my vision. And I told him I don't really have like a mission statement or anything, but I do have a picture painted of what it's going to be like several months from now after the summer's all over. And so before every single interview, I think about, like you were saying, I'm at SLC, right? And I just had this amazing summer. And I think about all these things that I painted out for myself and what it's going to be like. And I'm like, okay, this interview is going to be awesome. And so then I go into it and I'm super pumped because I'm like, okay, these people are going to be part of my vision. And so being pumped for your interview, I definitely think is really important because people can sense that. The second thing under the group interview is something else Tina already mentioned and several other people, is to make people feel special. So what's the next one? All right, sweet. All right, so for example, give eye contact. Really connect with people. If you're a brand new interviewer, don't be the sprinkler, okay, where you look at every person while you're talking each sentence, right? Start one sentence on one person and end it with them, and then move on. Remember, they're in an interview. It's okay to make them feel uncomfortable, but make them feel special at the same time because you're focusing on them. You're listening to them. Remember people's names. People love to hear their name, right? So at the end of just about every single sentence, I'll be like, oh, Emily, yeah, absolutely, exactly, that was the perfect answer. I might not say it to that extreme, but I'll always say their name. I'll be like, oh yeah, definitely, Tina. Yeah, that's definitely something that, we do here. But when you say their name, people perk up and they're like, oh, they remember my name. If you're horrible at remembering names, that's me. I have a horrible memory. So how I remember is something John Broman talked about at I think it was a kickoff conference, it's one of these meetings. And he talked about how to associate like facial features or somebody you knew in the past. So like, for example, there was this girl, her name was like Star, and so she was wearing star earrings, right? It was pretty easy. Another girl, her name was Sandy, and she was wearing like this glittery makeup, so I was like, she has sand on her eyes, so Sandy, right? helps out. If, anyway, I'll figure out creative ways to remember people's names. And so I look at them, I'll find something, I'm like, okay, that's Ben, kind of looks like Benjamin Franklin, so I can remember him. So anyway, but remember people's names. The biggest thing, though, I think that I made a really big change in the group is make statements into questions. People don't want to be lectured to for an hour or however long your interview is, so make it interactive. And if you make it interactive, people are going to be more involved, they're going to like it more. So instead of telling them about the junk knives, instead of saying, well, wood handles, so yeah, well, what happens with wood handles? Wood handles, they absorb room spectrum, right? Hey, yeah, so this is what customers have in their homes. How many of you guys have wood handles here in your house right now? Oh, I do. Yeah, what happens to wood handles? Right? Ask them. They're going to be the right answer. But make sure that when you turn statements into questions, make sure that it's obvious. Make sure that you know what the answer is going to be. Like, it would be retarded if they didn't tell you the right answer back, right? And so, anyway. But I would definitely say under the group interview, it would also be having fun. Make sure you have fun while you're doing your group presentation. It's just like a demo, except you're doing a demo for your interviewees. Instead of trying to sell them Pepco, you're selling them on the job. And so, obviously, you shouldn't be salesy, but you should have fun, right? The definition of a sale is what? Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of mumbles, but yes, you guys definitely got it right. Number 4, underneath the group interview, is to share your vision. Would you all agree that people want to be a part of something? I'm sorry, what? Yeah. Okay, thanks. So yeah, people want to be a part of something. So, at the end of my group interview, I talk about when I moved to Albuquerque this past summer, I talked about where the office was going to be going. I didn't have a team, but I was like, here's what we're going to do. And I kind of had the attitude that I don't need you, but it would be really nice to have you on the team, right? And so it's like, hey, this is going to happen with or without you, but here's what it's going to be like. Our office is going to be blank, 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 and I would share that detailed vision of what I had at the end of every interview. And so by the end of every interview, everybody was pumped because they wanted to be a part of that. And so then you do the takeaway. Well, I can't accept all of you, but I'm really excited for the people I can't work with because it's going to help us achieve this. So anyway, let me meet with each of them. Then we got the post. Okay, so the post. Accept who? Everybody. Yeah, anyone that stays for the group interview, you should accept. Okay, Sylvia Zurak was one of my reps this summer. She was 75 years old. Okay, she came in. I said, hey, this is your meeting with people's homes one-on-one. Are you okay with that? She said, yeah. I said, okay, go ahead and stay. She stayed for the group presentation, cut the rope. It took her like 3 times. And then in the post, I said, hey, is this something you want to do? And she said, yeah, I'm up for it. So her fast start, she sold like $3,000. Okay, so you never know, except everybody, okay? So she was a pretty funny lady. All right, so if you need to, this is something I learned from Drew. I always posted one person at a time, but I had like groups of like 30 people this summer, and some of you guys will have that too in an interview. If you need to, take 2 to 3 people back at a time. It doesn't hurt your show. And so you can talk with me about that one-on-one on how to specifically do that. But also underneath that, be sincere, okay? Don't just have this is something I did when I was brand new and I had a horrible show to training, was I was very robotic. I was like, well, I can see that, you're definitely dedicated. You interacted a lot in the group interview, you made eye contact, and you could breathe, so, hey, I think you did good. So, be sincere. As Marcus would say, insert humanity here, and make sure to talk with them on why they specifically would be good for the position. Find something on their application that stood out, or find something that would be why you think they would be good for the position in general, if they're really charismatic or whatever. Just final thoughts, and then I will wrap up. Final thoughts of interview efficiency. Never, ever, 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 ever give up an interview because of the amount of people that are there. The beginning of the summer, it was the last week of April, and it was a Saturday right after training, and I had 26 people set, and my ERAs did not have a very good show. I had 1 person show. I was talking on the phone with my boyfriend at the time, and I was like, blah, blah, and then I was like, oh, no one's going to show, I'm going to go home. I was like all excited that I was going to leave early.